Hey everyone, Kevin here, and welcome back to my channel. Something that's not often talked about is how much teaching will physically age you as time goes on. Now, any job with copious amounts of stress will inevitably age you, but it's not to the point where 3 months of teaching is near equivalent to an entire year of time in an ordinary office job or other corporate position. It's pretty similar to how much presidents age and deteriorate while in office. Most come out at the end of their terms looking visibly different than when they were elected, and teachers are no different. Looking at pictures of myself before, during, and after teaching, I could see clear differences in the way my face alone looked. I ended up with massive bags under my eyes, huge wrinkles like my 11s between my eyebrows, they're still there, and my hair noticeably started going gray on the sides within a couple of years. I still remember my barber, whose niece is a teacher I know, ironically, telling me one day while cutting my hair how much gray was coming in. And I said, then that's what teaching will do to you. And most teachers will probably tell you that they physically feel 20 years older than they are. And kids will often try to guess our age and be wildly off because we legitimately look older than we are. At the end of my first year of teaching, I was 24 years old, and my students were astonished not only because I was closer to them in age than they thought all year, but that I looked at least like I was in my mid to late 30s. And they weren't wrong. That is how I looked. And sure, I actually lost a lot of weight during that first year, but I still appeared older, and the relentless stress was already catching up to me that early on in my career. Managing hundreds of kids every day, grading, arriving at school and staying far longer than contract hours to get things done, extra duties, phone calls, administrative demands, and endless frustration will lead to physical changes and will drain you mentally too. And don't get me started on the sleep deprivation, the Sunday scaries, and emotional labor teachers have to manage on a daily basis. Many educators frequently sacrifice ever having restful sleep for this job. They get up incredibly early to not only drive to their school sites, but also prepare the day's lessons, make copies, answer who knows how many emails, attend before school meetings, do any yard or cafeteria duties they may have, and stay after school to try and get outstanding things done, all while knowing they never will. Add on top of that, the teachers who are also parents and who go home to their own kids and struggle to be awake and fully present for them, all while thinking about the next day or worrying if they can even force themselves to go in as we often did on our Sundays. That's really suffocating. It makes it damn near impossible for us to ever feel rested as we need. It's why vacations that teachers supposedly get aren't actually vacations in the traditional PTO sense that ordinary office workers think of. The time is more for recovery rather than enjoying the time off or going traveling. It's actually been estimated through studies that teachers make more minute by minute decisions than almost anyone else at around 1,500 per 6 hours of instruction, which means we make at least 4 decisions every minute due to classroom management, administrative tasks, supporting students, and making instructional choices. All of that leads to serious decision fatigue, and the stress of having to always be on really destroys people on a fundamental level. Oh, yeah. And those studies were done in the 1980s and 1990s. So rest assured, the number of decisions with all the increased demands and responsibilities placed upon teachers these days, because we're de facto babysitters now, is much higher now than that earlier figure. Teachers not only have to manage all of those direct stressors every day, but also take on all that secondary stress and trauma from our students too, thus leading to compassion fatigue on top of all of that. We are expected to give of ourselves and to always be there for students. I mean, most educators did go into the profession because they were altruistic, but the lack of support for our physical and mental health means that we inevitably burn out from that negative working environment. I mean, I was so physically and mentally exhausted and spinning the depression drain that my doctor wrote me out on what became a permanent stress leave that lasted until I resigned a month later. 2 days into that stress leave, I climbed up a mountain that is not far from my house and which actually overlooks my last school, and smiled for the first time in as long as I can remember. Here's a photo from that day, and you can see how I was already starting the healing process. But it took a lot more time than that to move forward. I made a video quite a while ago now on how most teachers need some level of therapy to process all of that, and it took me over a year of group therapy to work through The sheer level of primary and secondary trauma I had accumulated from a decade of public school service. I really did have PTSD from a number of things too, and the first step toward recovery was admitting that I had a problem, and that problem was the job. Many end up turning to substance abuse to cope with being a teacher, unfortunately, which I also made a video on as well. In addition, back when we were still doing our podcast, we did an episode with Jessica Duenas, who was a full blown alcoholic while also being a teacher of the year. She too got therapy, treatment, and left the profession despite being such an exemplary educator. And none of that is okay. The health problems that we develop and are left with as a result of this profession will last a lifetime. Sure, I have health problems now as I get older that honestly prevent me from doing a lot of the things I'd like to be doing, but I'll take whatever I have now over the mental battlefield that teaching became for me. I actually feel like I've gained years back on my life after leaving education. And even though it's sad to say, I almost feel like my 20s were a waste. It's traditionally seen as this time to enjoy your youth following high school, the adventures of your college years where you really start to find out who you are and grow personally and professionally with the people you care about. But I didn't get any of that until my 30s because I was simply too busy to enjoy the youth I had. I had spent it all in the classroom and only felt like I got some of that youth back later in life. Like I said, there's things I can't do anymore because of chronic health problems, some of which I got from teaching, but I feel younger and more alive than I did at any point in my 20s. I felt like I was almost living two lives back then. One where I was an old man teaching kids, and another trying to hang out and remain somewhat close to the few friends I still had left. If any of this speaks to you on a personal level, or you're wondering if you should get out, then the answer is probably yes. That dread you feel every time you think of going to work and getting out of your car shouldn't be ignored. That will cripple you both mentally and physically if you give it enough time. You'll be amazed at how much you will de-age when getting out of the profession. Believe me, I speak from experience. Well guys, thanks for listening and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please take a moment to click and like and subscribe or hit the bell button to get notified whenever I post something new. It helps with the algorithm immensely. For now though, I've been Kevin, and I will see you in the next video.